As part of Municipal Day at the Capitol, city leaders all across the state of Oklahoma have the opportunity to come to the Capitol and to visit with various legislative leaders. I had the privilege of talking with Governor Mary Fallin, and let's take a moment to look at that interview now. Well, Governor Fallin, thank you for allowing us to come to your office today. We appreciate your time. This is on public access television in Enid, Oklahoma, and of course we live stream our programs on Enid TV website. So people that have a connection to Enid all across the state get to watch these interviews, and I appreciate your time today. I know the folks in Enid, they kind of want maybe a 20-word or less update on the renovations. Doesn't seem like any renovations are going on in this particular room, but can you kind of give us an overall update?
Absolutely.
Of how things are going?
Well, one of the things I'm most proud of is that we finally started fixing up the Capitol, which is in great need of repair. This building will actually be 100 years old in June of next year, which we hope to have a grand celebration of the Capitol itself. But this is the seat of government. It's a place where school children come to learn about Oklahoma. It's a place where a lot of business is conducted. Tourists come here. It's got a lot of beautiful artwork. And so it's a very important part of Oklahoma in general is this Capitol. But after years of neglect and not putting the Capitol funds into it over decades upon decades, it's deteriorated. And so last couple of years ago, I guess it was now, we passed a bond issue to be able to refurbish the Capitol itself. We're hoping to pass a second bond issue to finish the project because it's a big one. But they've already started working on a couple of floors. They've done some work on the first floor, the third floor, getting ready to start on scaffolding outside and to put that up so that they can start working on the exterior of the building. We need to move down into the basement, move those people out of the basement up onto other floors, and then we need to work on the plumbing, electricity, some of the sewage problems in the Capitol, fixing the walls, shoring up the piers, the windows, those kinds of things. But it's very important that we do this.
Yes. I guess remodeling your kitchen is a huge inconvenience if you're not able to use a refrigerator or a stove. So I guess you'd magnify that 100 times in a building this size. So when you drive by and you look at the Capitol and say, oh, that looks pretty impressive, it looks pretty solid, I think it's important that you reminded us that it's 100 years old and there's some cracks, there's some aches and pains in a 100-year-old building. When you said the scaffolding be set up on the outside, what specifically will they work on?
Well, there's what's called pointing, which is between the limestones that's outside the Capitol's built on, and shoring up the material that's between the stones as they're placed, and fixing the windows. There's a lot of windows in the Capitol that are frankly just rotted out. And you have leaks that come through the Capitol and the limestone with rain, and that seeps down to the basement or it seeps into the Capitol itself. And then the interior deteriorates, and frankly the exterior can deteriorate too. And so we have to fix all that on the exterior while also working on the interior too. So it's a huge, massive project. It's a huge building, and as I said, it was built in 1917, and so it needs some extra work.
Sure. And I think people, when they drive by or when they visit the Capitol, there's a sense of pride that this is their state capitol, and we've got to take care of this because there's a lot more folks who want to tour the building, so we got to take care of it.
Absolutely. And when a lot of people come to Oklahoma, they come to the Capitol, and so the image they get of Oklahoma can also be reflected in the Capitol itself if it's not taken care of.
I realized when we were scheduling this appointment with you, we got in line with everybody else who wanted a few minutes with the governor. And I know when the session's in place, there's got to be multiple meetings, people coming in from across the country to visit with the governor. Can you kind of walk us through, if there's such a typical day, Governor, can you kind of tell us when your day starts and what would a full day be? Because I think the folks in Enid and Northwest Oklahoma, they would kind of like to know, what's the governor doing that day?
Well, it's a pretty fluid schedule, frankly. I mean, there are certain things I do that are set in stone every week unless there's something unusual that's going on. It's a very busy schedule, and frankly, you're never off call when you're governor. I mean, I get calls all hours of the night on the weekends and holidays, no matter what's going on. But typically, I'll just say my regular week during session, which is what we're in right now, on Monday mornings at 8 o'clock, I start with legislative leadership, and I'll invite various legislators from across the state. In fact, I had Senator Patrick Anderson in for breakfast this past week from your hometown. But I'll have various people in talking about various pieces of legislation. Some of them may be committee chairs, some of them may be carrying important agenda items like education reform or corrections reform or transportation type issues. So we'll meet on Monday mornings for breakfast, and then I begin a staff meeting after that at 9:30 at my office. We do that every single Monday morning and meet with all our staff people, go over what's going on for that week, what happened nationally, what's happening locally with legislation, talking about the budget certainly. And then I start just regular meetings from that point on Monday throughout that day. Usually during the week nights, I might have 3 to 4 nights that I work on the week and weekends. It kind of depends on the weeks itself. Now, Tuesday mornings, I also start out with the Speaker and the Pro Tem of the Senate, Speaker of the House, Pro Tem of the Senate, and their appropriations chairs. I've been meeting with them every Tuesday morning to talk about our budget shortfall, the different ideas that they're discussing within their caucuses, and to make sure that we're all talking and working together on ideas and looking at important areas of need and prioritizing our spending on our state budget. And then I start in with my meetings after that for the rest of Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, Friday. It's all just meetings basically. I go out, today I went out and had a brief tour of a great prison reentry program with Habitat for Humanity that's helping train prisoners on work skills as they're getting ready to be released. And these are low, nonviolent offenders that are in the program itself, but they're learning how to build homes. And so when they finish their term in 60 days and release back into the community, they'll have some work skills that they can go out and use in their trade. And in visiting with these inmates today, it was very encouraging to hear them say that they were excited about what their future held and that they didn't want to go back to their old way of life. So I do different things like that. We had a great foster's care event last week at the Thunder basketball game. I went to the basketball game that night, and we're trying to talk more Oklahomans into adopting foster kids and helping take people out, or children out of the DHS custody system. So besides budget and just general legislation, groups that come up last night, we had Northwest Oklahoma Territory. Enid was here. We had a lot of people from Enid, so I go to those receptions at night and do all those kinds of things. Today we had Made in Oklahoma reception. In fact, it'll be tonight.
You mentioned Patrick Anderson and breakfast. Do you find having these meetings, are they breakfast meetings or are they lunch meetings? What's the most effective way for you to stay in touch with the senior leadership of the legislature? Is it through these type of meetings?
It's through these types of meetings, and I've committed to doing that ever since I've been in office, every single Monday morning during the legislative session. And then sometimes I'll invite them down mid-afternoon and just say, come down and have a Coca-Cola or a cup of coffee or tea or something, just to talk and say, what are you hearing from your constituents? I meet with the lieutenant governor every single week during the legislative session too, and he gives me an update on his travels across the state. I also meet with my cabinet every month, and usually it's about a 4 to 5 hour meeting because I ask each cabinet member to give me a briefing on their areas of authority and to tell me what's going on. And we also talk about what's going on with the legislature and the budget and important priorities for our administration and our agenda.
Well, we certainly appreciate your time today, Governor, because you're the last of our visit because we visited with Lieutenant Governor Todd Lamb, and so you were next in line, so we appreciate that.
He's doing a great job for me, too.
Great. Well, we appreciate that update on his report card. You're talking about all these meetings, and I'm thinking, boy, you got to be organized, you got to have people skills, you've got to just see the best in everything. If there's a character quality that has really been developed, because you've been in the legislature since what, 1990?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
You served in the House, I believe, and then you were lieutenant governor, and then as governor.
In Congress, in between all
Congress,
that.
yeah, and then you came back. Okay, that's right. So is there this character quality that has really been developed that you're using now as governor? Because here you're meeting all these people and all these meetings that are taking place. Is there something you said, Steve, you have got to have this character quality to make it work? Could you pick out one? Don't mean to put you on the spot.
I think there's a lot of things I've learned over the years about leadership, and I really enjoy going and talking to colleges and college kids about leadership, or even other professional organizations about leadership, because you certainly learn a lot in this profession. It's not easy to get people to work together. It's not easy to get different political parties, especially as you're watching nationally this year. It's kind of crazy on the presidential election, but how can you pull people together to get them going in the same direction that's good for the state of Oklahoma? And I always tell our pages that are here every week, I also visit with them, that it's okay to have a difference of opinion with people as long as you're respectful.
Sure.
And that you understand that people don't always agree with you. And sometimes you can learn from other people, and then you also need to add whatever you think's important, because they may learn from you too. And so a couple of things I've learned is being respectful to people is very important, and I frankly expect that back too from people. I think being honest, having integrity is very important, are very important character traits that people need to know about whoever they're following or someone that's trying to set a goal for them. I think communication is extremely important. That's why I have a lot of different meetings with our elected officials. I think it's important to stay engaged with the public. There's an old saying that I tell my staff frequently, and it says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so telling people why you're doing something is important so they'll understand, here's what I'm trying to accomplish, here's why we need to do this, here's the pros and cons of both sides. I think that's important. It's just a communication to the public on here's the budget reality, here's our priorities, here's what we're trying to do, and explaining those things. Because frankly, governing is very hard, especially in today's political climate with all the social media that you have and sometimes misinformation. Sometimes it's at different times can be misinformation on purpose too. Just tell people the facts and let them make up their own mind.
Even on the city level
Yeah, you know.
as well. Well, Governor, let's take your statement a little further about letting people know how much you care and know. What's important to a lot of the folks in Northwest Oklahoma and Enid is certainly water. And Enid relies on water wells. We have 3 different water well fields in the area. We don't have a lake. We don't have a lake to water ski or a lake for really drinking water. But there has been an effort the last year or so to look into the feasibility of receiving water from Call Lake without really disturbing lake levels and things of this nature. And I want to look at my notes. There's the Water for 2060 Act, and the goal is for water consumption in 2060 to equal the amount consumed in 2012.
Absolutely.
That's an impressive goal, knowing the growth of our communities. And one thing that kind of limits the growth of Enid and Northwest Oklahoma is, boy, we don't have a Grand Lake. We don't have a Lake Eufaula. We don't have a Texoma. So that's really challenging. Can you just tell the folks in Enid what this, Water for 2060 Act is all about?
Absolutely. Well, one of the things I've worked on for many, many years is trying to address the water needs of Oklahoma, whether it is drinking water in our communities, where there's water for agriculture, water for manufacturing, water for recreation, water for the oil and gas industry, whatever the water might be used for, but also recognizing the fact that up until June of last year, we had been in a 7-year drought in the state of Oklahoma. In fact, one of the reasons why we've been having a lot of grass fires, especially recently, has been because we've been so parched for many, almost a decade now, many, many years, but almost a decade. And so a couple of years back, in working with my energy secretary and various officials with the Water Resources Board, we set a goal that we would use no more water in 2060 than we did, I should say, in 2012, because it's important to have the water that we need for not only our drinking, but for economic development purposes, for growth and populations in our various communities, and certainly for businesses and industries. But the other side of the coin is not only to have a goal, but to also have a water management plan. And so we developed a water management plan and different water management regions in the state of Oklahoma to get businesses and communities thinking about how we utilize water and what's the amount of water that we need, looking not only for today but into the future. And I'll give you an example. In Enid, Koch Industries has been really, really good and doing what we call reusing water, which is essential because there's a lot of industries like Koch that uses a lot of water in the production of their services.
Millions of gallons a day.
Absolutely. And so we want to be good stewards of our water and our land and our air. And so we began another plan, another council, besides just conservation of water, of repurposing of water, reuse of water. And so I established a council last year that would look at the reuse of water. In other words, taking water that you can't drink, but can you repurpose it and use it in some type of manufacturing capacity or maybe the energy sector or something else. And so not only are we conserving our water that we have, making sure it's going to be available, but also looking at ways we can better have reuse of wastewater, basically, and other types of water that you might not be able to drink.
Well, we certainly enjoy the partnership with Koch Industries, Koch Nitrogen, because they're a great community partner for us, and we really enjoy their conscientious effort to conserve water, but make the most of every drop, and they do a great job. They're a great partner for us. Governor, recently you attended the Governor's Conference, and I believe it was in Washington, D.C., and I believe that you attend that every year. Can you tell the folks here in Northwest Oklahoma, what does our Oklahoma governor do at that Governor's Conference?
Well, absolutely, Steve. I'm one of these big believers that you can learn from other governors, you can learn from other states, and basically one of the things I enjoy most about that conference, the National Governors Association, which, by the way, I was national chair a couple of years back, is that you can talk about what we call best practices. And we have a governors only session where we meet once or twice during that annual meeting, in which we talk about Medicaid reform, we talk about education, we talk about tax reform, we might talk about the EPA and the rules or guidelines, we might talk about Obamacare, lots of different topics, but we talk about the best practices of what things have worked, what things have not worked among the governors themselves, outside of our regular meetings in that association. So it's very helpful because I've heard lots of good different programs, and we've come back to Oklahoma, we've checked into some of those things. One of the initiatives I launched through the National Governors Association when I was chairman a couple of years ago was a program called America Works, Education and Training for Tomorrow's Jobs. And it was a national thing that I launched with different governors across the nation to look at how we can build a better pipeline of talent in our workforce to meet the needs of our employers, while also helping those who are looking for jobs have the skill sets that they need so they would have relevant work skills to the job openings. And we actually brought that back home and launched it last year across Oklahoma with a program called Oklahoma Works. And so we did 9 regional town hall meetings across the state, bringing employers with our higher education institutions, our career technology schools, and our superintendents for K through 12 schools, to have them talking at the table about what work skills do we need, not only for today, but looking into the future, so we can have a stronger, more vibrant economy in Oklahoma.
Governor, in preparation for this interview, I was doing research for potential questions, and I was talking with a variety of people in Enid. And I said, if you had an opportunity to talk to Governor Mary Fallin, what would you ask her? And one of the questions that came up said that, okay, Governor Mary Fallin, she was our first female lieutenant governor. Right. Is that correct? And then first female governor. And the question that the person said, well, Steve, ask her this. Did she sense any pressure from anyone being that first female lieutenant governor and governor? Was there this added pressure that, by golly, I'm going to do a really, really good job?
Well, I think the pressure was on myself. Yeah. When I can still remember when I was elected the first woman lieutenant governor of Oklahoma back 20 years ago, which is kind of scary, but 20 years ago, it's hard to believe it's been that long. But I remember as a young mother, and I had my children who were 7 and 10 at that time. Wow. And I can remember walking down the front steps of the Capitol, and there's this nice crowd out front, a couple thousand people. I was getting ready to take my oath of office, and I had my 2 children, my husband behind me, and as I walked out, I thought, oh my goodness, I'm the first woman to do this. I better do it well and do it, do it very, very good, because people look towards those who have gone before them to be a role model. And so I'm very conscientious of that as a mother, as a woman, that hopefully I can pave the way so that other women will take an opportunity to try things they had never tried before. Sure. And not only do I tell women that, but I tell young men that. When I talk to Boy State, or I might talk to the seniors or high school students who are coming here to Page at the Capitol, I tell them that never in my life did I dream when I was a young girl that I'd be a governor, ever. Never crossed my mind. But as I continued on through my political career, and people say, well, why don't you think about running for this? And I would think, well, no one's ever done that before. I can't do that. And so I tell the young folks to dream big, take chances, work hard, stay out of trouble. And you can be anything you want to be if you'll work hard and do those things and don't give up. And along with that, Steve, I think it's important, I should say, that we set expectations high for every Oklahoman to achieve their dreams based upon whatever it is they want to do. But we provide them with a quality education We make sure we have the right standards, the right education system in place. We provide businesses with the right opportunity to be profitable, and that's always been one of my top goals, is to make Oklahoma business friendly, and that we provide a good quality of life, things to do in our state for our families and for businesses looking at moving people to Oklahoma. I mean, we should always set the opportunity high so that people can achieve their own personal dreams for themselves.
One thing about our public access television, Enid, Oklahoma, it provides an opportunity for Enid or one of Enid's favorite sons, Todd Lamb, to come home and appear on television and sit down and talk with me from time to time. I think the folks in Northwest Oklahoma would like to know the working relationship between the governor's office and the lieutenant governor's office. You've been on both sides, you know how it works. And not necessarily reflecting on Todd, but how do the two offices work together? And I'm sure he is complimentary to what you need to be done, and you can't be there. You can call on the Lieutenant Governor to.
Well, he's good to go, and Lieutenant Governor's good to go and carry out our messages, our agenda, and I'm sure he does that as he travels all 77 counties, as he talks about. But I put Lieutenant Governor Lamb on my cabinet, and so he's invited to every one of my cabinet meetings, and he participates when he can. I have also asked him to be our small business advocate for the state. There's a role I played when I was Lieutenant Governor, and so he's really good at going out and talking to our small businesses in Oklahoma. He certainly hosts the Lieutenant Governor's Turkey Hunt, which is a great business recruitment tool, especially for rural Oklahoma. And of course, we all love the Enid Quail Hunt, which I've been to many, many times. It's not the Lieutenant Governor's, but it's a great community event. I think both of us try to go to when we can, but he's done a good job of going out and talking about our message as a party, frankly, and bring back some of the information that I need to hear as a governor as he meets with people. And I meet with him every Monday morning at breakfast during legislative session. He's invited to come over and meet with me and legislative leaders, and I always ask him, "What did you hear out among the state, Todd, this week?" And so he'll share with me, well, people are concerned about this or that, or how are we going to balance the budget, or been talking to workers about workers' compensation reform to small businesses. So he's good to go out and gather information and bring it back too.
You were talking about the governor's conference in Washington, D.C., and how the importance of networking and just really learning best standards or best practices and just learning from the other governors. This is the only budget question I'm going to throw at you, because I know it probably it's pretty exhaustive because everybody's asking you about the budget shortfall and all that. My question is, other states, similar problems. Louisiana, the list goes on.
Long list
have the budget shortfalls. What are you able to obtain from those governors if you call them and say, well, we're experiencing the same type of shortfall? Is there any insight or any helpful bits of information for you as governor when you visit with the others, knowing that other states are going through the same challenges that Oklahoma is?
Absolutely. I've talked to several states that are experiencing large budget shortfalls because of the energy sector, which we are too. And there are states that are experiencing budget shortfalls that don't have the energy sector as a prominent sector in their economy. But for an example, I've talked to the governor of Alaska. Their economy is really based on energy in that state. In fact, 90% of the revenue comes from oil and gas, so it's huge. And their governor told me they had been shutting down some schools, which is not good, and it's certainly something that we don't want to do, in Oklahoma. But I've talked to the governor in Texas. Certainly, they've had some businesses go under because of the energy sector. Louisiana is facing right now about a $2 billion shortfall. Their governor went as far as saying, this is just something I think I would agree with him on, for him, not for us, that he had even made a suggestion that they not have LSU football in the fall, which is a bold, big thing for a governor in Louisiana
to say. Can you imagine saying that in Oklahoma?
No, it would be a lynching in Oklahoma. But anyway, there's a lot of governors who have similar problems, so we do talk about different ways of handling the budget crisis. We talk about certainly competition within our states, what our tax rates are. We talk about Medicaid reform, how to be sure we cover as many people as possible, but yet we know that our Medicaid costs have been going up, and how can we control those? We talk about quality education, which is extremely important, and paying teachers a decent salary, which is also very important to all of our states.
Well, we're about out of time in our interview, and again, I'm just really appreciative of you working us into your schedule today. A quick question: what's the best thing about serving as governor of Oklahoma?
I think the best thing is meeting the people of Oklahoma. It is so fun, all the different people you get to meet, all walks of life, and I'm just always impressed with people, the things that they do. In our state, there's a lot of great business people, a lot of outstanding people have gone on to do great things to change the world, but there are also a lot of people have a lot of issues, a lot of problems, so it's rewarding to be able to help people. They have problems too.
Well, Governor, I have, this is not a gold coin. I wish it was to help out on the budget crisis, but
Oh,
whenever...
I thought you were going to give me some money for the
Well,
budget.
well, okay, I'm going to give you an almost gold coin. But Governor, it says boundless, vibrant, and original. And of course, you know where Enid, Oklahoma is, but it has a little star where Enid is.
Oh,
but
neat.
it's our new logo. And when we have
wow.
visits like this, we just want to show, the folks of Enid just want to show their appreciation and give you our commemorative coin. So when you see it on your desk, you'll be thinking about Enid, Northwest Oklahoma, and that, anyway, that's our gift to you.
Thank you very much. That's really cool. Really, really. Enid's outstanding community, so I'll keep that with pride.
Well, we'd like to do cool things.
That is cool.
Again, thank you
Well,
for your
thank you,
time
Steve.
today. It's good seeing
Appreciate you. Great job.
Thank you.